And speaking of muckety mucks, Ricky Muckety Muck Mathews, host of Coast View Super Talk. This is old stuff here. The Ricky Mathews Show. How many things you got going now? Swap and shop. What else we got here? No, seriously, man. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. How you doing this morning, Paul?
Good. Busy morning. I'm just a little upset looking at this bill here. I know this is not what we're going to talk about, but this so-called bipartisan bill for the border, immediate work permits to every illegal released from custody after they pass an initial screening. And here's the screening. How many fingers I got up? Nothing in this entire bill to deport illegals. Not a single solitary thing. There are 60,000 Afghans who would become citizens, pathway to citizenship, immediately coming into the country. It weakens the asylum screening by codifying the Biden policy. No immediate funding whatsoever for the border. And that's just a few of the things. I cannot imagine Cindy Hyde-Smith or Roger Wicker even getting close to this thing, but we will see. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's amazing what's happening at the border, and that it's become a political issue instead of something that is focused on protecting the U.S. and our borders. I mean, no one's against legal immigration. Most people are not against legal immigration.
Nope. We need it.
That's how our forefathers got here, most of them. Yeah. The reality is that this has got to be fixed, and the Biden administration could have already fixed it. And now it's just become this huge political issue. It seems so basic.
Watch this for a segue. This segue is that immigration in past years that caused the Mardi Gras influence on the Gulf Coast, with a lot of people coming in. I had this list here, and we had this a couple of 3 weeks ago, and I was mentioning some of the parades go on. But when you're further inland, you don't think about this, us landlubbers. Yeah. But, I mean, it's a wonderful time. It's an exciting time. And for folks who want to just take a few days off, go out and enjoy the Gulf Coast, man, the parades are just an extra little lagniappe, if I could, to that.
It is. Listen, it's so festive. It's a Lent period, 40 days of Lent observing, of fasting and prayer, and the time before that. In fact, as you know, Mardi Gras is the French term for Fat Tuesday. So it's the opportunity for, as Catholics often say, to get it out of your system before Lent starts. But, Paul, I've had a lot of fun with Mardi Gras over the years, because as I'm the former president and publisher of the Mobile newspaper, the New Orleans newspaper, and the Coastal Mississippi newspaper. And so there's always been this kind of friendly banter back and forth about where the first Mardi Gras was. Of course, officially on record, it was in Mobile, but some believe that D'Iberville, who discovered Biloxi, brought those French customs with him in February of 1699. Yeah. And then, of course, the first Mardi Gras parade wasn't in New Orleans until like 1837. That was the Comus parade. But it is a wonderful time of the year. It's a huge economic impact for the cities across coastal Mississippi. So many activities, the festive colors, the camaraderie, the crews coming together with their balls and all their observance. There's a lot going on right now.
Are they still going on for this weekend and the following weekend, or are they over this weekend?
Well, Mardi Gras is Tuesday, February the 13th.
I'm talking about the parades itself. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the parades have been going on for weeks actually, and they'll continue to go on through this weekend and then into Tuesday. And
I got you.
By the way, SuperTalk Mississippi News does a great job of covering. People can go to supertalk.fm and do a search on Mardi Gras. There's a great story about all the activities for the whole state, I might add, surrounding Mardi Gras in coastal Mississippi.
Who are the people who are doing this? Is it just nonprofit groups or churches, or who puts these things together?
No, it's mostly nonprofit groups. Yeah.
Is it?
Listen, man, it is, for a lot of these people, it's a second job, and it's a year-round activity. The Mississippi Gulf Coast Carnival Association is the largest. And, they have a king and a queen and a court, but then there are other crews as well, many other crews. And It's a big time in Costa Mesa. It's a big part of our tradition. It's been going on a long time. And it is it's a huge shot in the arm to tourism. I often say to people that if you really want to see Mississippians ride in a Mardi Gras parade and see the people that are there, it's an amazing opportunity for us to understand who we are.
A little bit of an irony is that there were several parades in New Orleans that were stopped because of financial situations. They said that probably that in danger. So, but they curtailed some of the parades there.
Yeah, listen, I'm deeply concerned about New Orleans. We could have a whole show about that. I pay very close attention. When I was publisher there, I spent a lot of time with the mayor talking about the crime issue, and it's just gotten worse. And I don't know, man. In America, we've got to do something about crime. I've been watching closely what's happening in El Salvador. I'm sure you are too. But that new president has locked down. And, we've got to do something drastic in this country. And the cities like New Orleans are going to be in trouble if we don't.
Well, we're not doing it, though. In areas that you have conservative leadership and there are consequences, what was the story we had day before yesterday, where these people who beat the heck out of these two cops in New York, they were illegal immigrants. These were from Venezuela or someplace. And they had they've only been here for 2 months. Ricky, 2 months they've been here. Yeah. They've already organized crimes. They were using scooters. They were very sophisticated. They would rob the heck out of many places. They would take all of that to Florida to spend the money, and then when they were ready to rob again, they would go back. And then when asked, why do you do this? Why don't you just stay in Florida? He said, no, because we could go to jail there. Boom. What else? Hey,
there was a news report. There was a news report this morning that said that I think some of them might have been apprehended in Arizona. Be interesting to see how that plays out. Yes. So we'll see.
Mayor Adams, and when I hear these audio bites of this, you just want to scream. He's the guy telling us we need more fire departments and we need more fire trucks, and he's kind of responsible for giving the matches to the arsonists.
I can't be clearer. This is a national problem. Chicago, Boston, Houston, Washington. The national government must solve this, and the challenges that we are facing. No city should be facing these challenges. And I kept saying this over and over again. We're going to start to see the visualization of the failure of the policy. I said this over and over again. I said it last year. I said it from the beginning of this crisis. We're seeing the visual of what a failed national policy is producing. And when I speak to my colleagues in other cities, they're saying the same thing. It's not unique to New York. We have to fix this with a national solution.
Well, you fix it with a national solution with consequences. Or if not, a nation that loses its liberty is all crying out, almost like to a madman like Adolf Hitler, just correct this. Bring us peace, bring us safety, bring us prosperity, and you get none of that. But they're willing to try that at some point on as far as consequences. They don't mind lining those people up in the public square and shooting them until all of a sudden they're part of that group without a trial, and that's the way history is always repeats itself, and it's
hey,
very,
what's
very
been
scary.
Interesting on X, watching Elon Musk talk about it. I think he has like 125 million followers, Paul, and the fact that he's zeroing in and talking about it the way he is, it still doesn't make much difference. It's amazing to me that these major problems, as much attention as we bring to them, we can't get our arms around it for political reasons. It's a sad moment in America, in my view.
If we could just relate to this, and I think we're not talking about black or white or ethnicity or skin color or anything else. What changes cities, what changes states, what changes this country is going to be political ideology. Because you look at the mayor of Dallas who decided to as an African-American, I can't take this anymore. I got to switch to the Republican Party. You look at one of the possible vice presidential running mates with Donald Trump, Tim Scott, he mentioned yesterday, Tim Scott and Governor Nome. Tim Scott, political ideology that's what's going to have to happen to make this difference. Not so much ethnicity or anything else. We'll talk more. I want to ask you about the wildlife show when we come back, right after this, with Ricky Mathews. Ricky Mathews is with us. Ricky, when you're talking about New Orleans, I just thought I'd throw this in here. It was in one of the stacks. Move over Letitia, move over Fannie. You've got the New Orleans Mayor, LaToya Cantrell. She's a winner. What is it about these strong women in politics? Under FBI investigation for an alleged relationship with a police officer, Jeffrey Vapey. The probe includes a taxpayer-funded trip to Dubai, costing over $15,000. Mayor LaToya Cantrell is also facing charges for first-class travel violations and repaying $29,000 for upgraded flights. She has her problems in New Orleans. That's amazing.
Hey, quick comment. I know LaToya.
Sure.
And she and I spent some time together when I was in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. She was a community organizer after Hurricane Katrina and did a really good job at that. But I have to tell you, man, what I remember most about her is when we talked, she cussed like a sailor. I've never heard anybody cuss like a sailor like she did. And then she ultimately gets onto the city council and then becomes mayor of the city. It's amazing.
I didn't read why she went to Dubai, but I'm sure it was for economic reasons to maybe have Dubai open up a second site somewhere in New Orleans. It'll be interesting to find that one out during the court proceedings. Let's talk about the wildlife show and the wrap-up of the deer season and duck seasons and everything else, and what's the direction of the show taken, and what's it sound like, what it looks like.
Well, look, here's as you know, yesterday I reported that at the behest of Lynn Posey, the executive director of the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, and the commission, the foundation withdrew funding from the show. And at the root of this really was whether I could have an independent voice or not. And you and I have talked about this many times before. Yep. I wouldn't be in this chair if I couldn't have an independent voice. You would not be in that chair if you could not have an independent voice. At the core value of SuperTalk Mississippi is the fact that we support the people on our shows to be able to say what they believe. So, when you're talking about the border, you need to be able to say what you think. When we talked about the new state flag or the new state song, or issues related to state agencies, including the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Commission, we need to be able to express our view. And they didn't like that I had disagreements with them on certain issues. Not all the time, Paul. I mean, this was periodically, because I spent most of my time celebrating the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks employees and outdoors in Mississippi. That I say every week, we're the capital of the outdoors in America. But important policy is determined by the commission. The direction of the department is determined by the commission. Too often they make decisions without public input and without really relying hard on the science that's available to them. And I have voiced my concerns about that. And then you and I have talked about the sell and transfer of white-tailed deer, and how I believe and others believe that would be a disaster for Mississippi. And I've been open about that. And of course, certain commissioners and certain deer breeders don't like that we've talked about it. And so it just kind of led up to it. They first tried to get me fired, to be quite honest with you. They pulled out all stops, literally and figuratively, and then ultimately withdrew the funding. But we're fine. The show goes on. We're going to continue to talk. We've got our independent voice, and we're going to continue to support outdoorsmen and women in this state.
Welcome to Talk Radio.
Hey, I'm a former publisher, buddy. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot.
Well, they're trying to get you fired from the Publisher's Post as well. But we do have a disclaimer, and everybody ought to listen to that disclaimer. It is not the network. It's not anybody else. It's the views and the opinion of the host, and only the host. Now, if there is some negative feedback to that, we'll get it from the audience out there, and a lot of times you do, but you're never going to please everybody. And
no, we didn't get it. But here's the interesting thing: there's never been a correction of fact in any way, not one time in over 2 years of the show. Yeah. A lot of support from the outdoors community and the conservation leadership community. Really, the only time we ever heard anything was through the back room conversations and back doors, and you know what I mean. This is that's the way it often works. I'm not naive to that. No. But when it comes to Mississippi's wildlife legacy is too important to not have conversations about it. And the way that the way the board is structured now, Paul, with just three votes on that 5-member wildlife commission that is appointed by the governor, they can change policy. They can literally change the wildlife direction generationally for our kids. We've got to take this more seriously.
Does the Wildlife Trust Fund comes into this in any plays into this?
I think here's what I think. It's interesting because during the discussions around the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund, you remember it took 2 years.
Yeah.
The Lieutenant Governor triple referred it the first time, and we talked about that. I think he might have been upset with us at the time, but we were respectful about the way we had those conversations, and there was a lot of various input coming about that. We were able ultimately to, in the second year of trying to get the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund passed. And look, our relationship with Lieutenant Governor is terrific. He'll come on the show, either one of my shows, usually on a moment's notice. I have a lot of respect for Delbert, and he's been incredibly supportive. But at the end of the day, it wasn't until we really started talking about issues where there seemed to be a lot of political influence that it started to really hit the fan. And that's just the reality of it. But I think it's been a slow ball. It's been a slow ball.
In reality, you wouldn't even have all of the talk show hosts on the same page on some things. If you did, that would probably be good. You'd have different views. In one of those cases, in formulating this trust thing, I was a bit reticent about some of the money immediately going to private concerns, and I understand duck hunting, and I understand all of that, but I think I was in more accord with the Lieutenant Governor, maybe at the same time having some disagreements on his committee assignments in the first term, but on this particular issue, let's take care, and this is before the state parks had a standalone funding. Let's take care of the state parks, the state lakes, the bike trails, and everything else before we started going into accepting some of the stuff. And I got some pushback on that one. But, again, it's the opinion of the host. The next host may have a different opinion.
Hey, Paul, I agree completely. Yeah, I think you played an important role. And, the truth is sometimes you don't ever hit it the first time. Usually you don't hit it the first time with legislation. It often takes. Yeah. You have to reintroduce it. You have to clean it up. And I think we ended up with a bill that's terrific. The issue ultimately was about the federal matching funds. And I remember you being compelled by that as well. That if we could, whether it was on private land or public land, if we could turn $1 into $4, that's going to be good for Mississippi. And by the way, that's exactly what has happened. We have leveraged that money tremendously, and we have an Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund and a trust fund board that is terrific. And we're moving forward, and we're able to match the money now, and I think Mississippi's going to benefit from that.
Well, your guest list will continue the top in the state, and I know the topics will also, because it's such a big part of our daily lives, hunting and fishing in the state, and outdoor recreation, period.
Yeah, it's $1 billion industry in this state. It impacts economic development. It impacts communities across the state. It's a big source of enjoyment. It's the one place where we can go and put our political differences aside and enjoy being in God's nature, and generationally enjoy being with friends and family. It's a big deal. And here's the thing: the employees of the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks are incredible. I've been so honored to have the opportunity to share their stories and what they do in their daily lives to make sure that our kids and our kids' kids can enjoy where we go. I've been really, really fortunate to have been able to get to know the foundation. They're raising tens of millions of dollars to fill gaps in the state from a conservation point of view, and they're all volunteer leaders. And they've been incredibly supportive. It's been a gift to do the show, and I'm thrilled that we're going to continue on, and we're going to talk about the issues, and we're going to celebrate Mississippi as the outdoor capital of America. That's what I'm most proud of.
Let me give you a sidetrack here before we let you go. Any comments on the squabble going on between the Gaming Commission, and we had Jay McDaniels on the other day, and the SOS on this Tide Lands and this new casino?
Listen.
Do you
after Hurricane? I was deeply engaged in this as a publisher of the Sun.
You want some? Hey, we got a bumper. Can you hear me? we got a bumper starting here, and can you hold on for a second?
I can.
Okay, hold on right after this break. I'll give you a chance. I won't keep you for the whole time. I know you got to get ready for your show too. So back with Ricky Mathews coming up. He'll answer that question when we return in just a moment. Idea. For 10 or 15 years, both of you guys, you can fade it now. Both of you guys, for 10 or 15 years, this was the opening of a major fishing show on television.
Bill Dance Outdoors.
Bill Dance Outdoors.
That's it.
It all comes together. So there you are. Just want to let you know that. All right, this squabble between the SOS, so the Secretary of State, and the Gaming Commission, et cetera, what's your insight on that?
Listen, back when we after Hurricane Katrina worked to create inland gaming, I actually, as publisher of the newspaper, brought some interest together to try to relieve some fears that possibly proliferation of gaming would go beyond where legal sites are right now. So that's always been a big concern, that existing casinos would rebuild and spend hundreds of millions of dollars, and then the rules would change along the way and create competition in places where it's not currently legal. So that's part of the deal. I've had long conversations with Michael Watson about this. He believes the law is on his side, and that unfortunately what we're dealing with is some politics. That's his view. It's beyond a squabble now, though. It's going to be law. I mean, they are going to be allowed to build a pier, which is essentially a prerequisite to having potentially a casino there. They've got 4 years to decide what that's going to be, and I think if they can raise the money, they probably will go forward. But I don't. I'm torn because I recall those early conversations about rules changing. And some will say rules haven't changed, but to some extent, I think rules have changed. Yeah. And so we're going to create competition where competition wasn't before.
I asked this question to the gaming commissioner, and I said, if this is the way the rules are now, how many other like areas would be available? And the sense I got from him was this is such a unique situation that it really wouldn't, start the ball rolling on the other locations being available. Do you agree with that or disagree with that?
No, I don't. I don't agree with it at all. I don't know if you can answer that question without first doing a current analysis of where commercial land is located and what kind of development is south of Highway 90. I'm concerned about that. I'm really concerned about that. I'm all for free enterprise, and I've had long conversation with Fofo. Fofo believes, the mayor of Biloxi, Fofo Gillich, believes they're on the right side of the law on this. They certainly won this round, but I am worried that we're not going to have pure proliferation, but there are going to be other gaming sites, I'm sure, that will become part of the conversation.
But the question some people are going to be asking, if you had more casinos there, how is that a bad thing as far as competition is concerned? They would still have to go by the edicts of where they locate on the shore. They can't move inland anymore. So you would still have those directives, would you not?
You would, for sure. I mean, there's no question about that. And one of the things that Mississippi did well is that we said we're going to let the free enterprise, we're going to let the market decide where the casinos develop or not. But I think a really important conversation we were having after Hurricane Katrina when we passed the inland gaming law was, could the rules somehow change to allow casinos to go where they currently cannot go? And is this one of those cases? And could it set a precedence for others? I think it's a matter
any more on that would have to be done by the legislature, though, not the gaming commission, right?
No. Actually, it's not. I mean, if you find other scenarios similar to what's happening with the RW project at Veterans
so we're
Avenue,
back to that. All right.
Yeah, for sure. So it's going to be interesting to watch. I tell you what, both sides are dug in. That's for sure. And I can, if I'm talking to an existing casino owner like Beau Rivage or Harrah's or someone like that spent hundreds of millions of dollars rebuilding, what is their read on this? Is it that the rules have changed? Maybe it is.
Yeah. By the way, it looks like we're closer to a mobile betting app, so that's another story out there as far as casinos are concerned. I did want to ask you this. A lot of people may not know this. The CTA tram bridge, I haven't seen this, but it's complete now. And for folks who, from across Mississippi who may be going down to the Gulf Coast, want to visit the aquarium, they're going to see something new. Explain that.
Paul's really a great development because what you have is the Mississippi Aquarium that's next to the CTA. The old Gulfport Library is now an administration building with a terrific multi-layered parking garage behind it. And now to sort of connect this huge campus of the Small Craft Harbor and the Mississippi Aquarium is this incredibly well-designed walk area. So you can park next to the Mississippi Aquarium, walk over Highway 90 into Jones Park. It connects it all. It's a wonderful vision for the city of Gulfport. Again, it'll become an iconic picture in the tourism pictures that you see of coastal Mississippi, and it's gonna make that campus just absolutely incredible.
Well, finally here, and I'll let you go. I know you need to get to work on your show prep. The bills I'm looking at here, there are a multitude of bills that deal with deer hunting, the fences, limits, everything else, life jackets, and it's going to be important for folks to keep up with this, and Ricky will do that with you and for you, and go through those bills all the way through the legislative session. Any final thoughts, sir?
No, we'll be talking more about those every Monday. Believe me, the shows are going to be much deeper today than they were before. We're going to look into these various forms of legislation and why we need to look at these things. Do what now?
There you go. Unfiltered.
Unfiltered.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it very, very much.